Let's start off with a look at what you're making of the kind of activity we're seeing in Nigeria right now, because the week started off yesterday on a positive note. We had the NSE All-Share Index up 0.67 basis or 0.67 points by the close of the session.
Yeah, well, I think the week started off on a good note, but then that is on the back of, if you see the last trading days, the market has been incrementally gaining a bit of momentum. I think people are beginning to shift their eyes and pay close attention to the stock market now, especially because the earnings season is fully underway. So we expect the banks to start to release their results. Zenith Bank has released its results. It wasn't bad. I think people expected it to do slightly better, but then again, it was a strong set of results. GT we expect should come in this week as well, and that investors are expecting that should be encouraging as well. And if you look at the food and beverage as well, we've seen Nestle, we've seen Nigerian breweries release very impressive sets of numbers. So I guess people are now beginning to take a close look at the market, despite the high rates you see in the fixed income.
Let's for a moment focus in on the banking sector in particular, because you highlighted Zenith Bank as one of the stocks that you've got your eye on. In yesterday's session, it managed to claw back just over a 1% gain, and many saying that with healthy demand filtering through at that 13 naira 70 level, it's likely to find support in coming sessions. What's your view on a player like Zenith Bank?
Well, I mean, for a player like Zenith Bank, we think it's a stable bank. We think increasingly it's grows its results. It's fairly conservative, but I think analysts were a bit shocked at the provisioning level because based on the guidance from management, it came as slightly surprising. So if you just look at the Q sets of numbers, we expected them to have made more, and I think that is why it slightly underperformed what the consensus was. But from a medium to long-term perspective, I think Zenith is a good buy. We expect it to trade comfortably over 15, 16 naira. But then again, that is constrained by the macro environment. But for a long-term stock, I'm still quite bullish.
That's very interesting, because it's in a context where we've had Fitch ratings come to the fore with a new comment saying that Nigerian banks' long-term ratings are constrained by an extremely challenging operating environment, concentrated credit risk, and then weak, albeit improving corporate governance and transparency requirements as well. So what did you make of that kind of rhetoric that's been coming through from the ratings agency?
I think on the first 2 points, challenging operating environment, that has been the norm. I think the banks have managed to cope. I think most big organizations operating in Nigeria understand the risk and the challenges and have invested considerably. But I think also on the back of that, the central bank has embarked on certain initiative to ensure that some of the bottlenecks, that challenge or constrain banks' cost is actually reduced. So something like the cash light initiative, whereby moving cash around should reduce as a result of the limit which is set to implement. When you then talk about macro environment, so you talk about security and the perception of security, I think yes, that has its own challenges. I think banks as well, spending a bit on security just to ensure their premises, staff are safe. But generally, they're not new to it, and I think it shouldn't be a game changer. I think the last thing on corporate governance, I see that's where quite a bit of work has been done in the last couple of years, especially with the central bank, leading some of the more fundamental changes, and I think to my mind that has improved. So I'm a bit surprised about that comment on weak corporate governance, because it was on the back of that we embarked on some of the reforms that we've seen in the last 2-3 years, which we're about to come through at this point in time. There is something in it, and I won't totally dismiss it, but I think that the devil is in the detail as well.
Yeah.